Welcome back, guys. I trust you are fine. Now, I've been following this case closely, and honestly, it disgusts me. It has to do with the case about the boy in the box, which involves a couple who are allegedly devout Christians per the reports out there, by name Tracy Ferriter and Timothy Ferriter. And this couple are accused, per the facts out there, of treating their 14-year-old adopted son in a manner that is not too good, if I choose to put it that way. I choose to put it this way out of respect for the boy, because I don't think that it's good we even clearly get into the specific definitive words that suits what they are doing. And I don't understand why or how they are devout Christians as reported and are able to do all these things to the boy. There are some of the things I'm sure some cultures may argue for to an extent, maybe not to the extreme, but some of the things for me are blatantly too extreme. For example, they are accused of keeping this guy in an 8 by 8 feet box. That is basically where this boy was housed. That's where he was living, within their garage. And I won't mention the name of the boy out of respect for him. But then I think that I just don't get it. What was the motive here? What was the end game? What was their reason? What justifies that treatment? And it turns out the boy is adopted. Now, my question is, if you are not ready to give this boy the best of your parenting, why even go in to adopt him at all? I'm sure there are other parents out there who would have loved to have the chance to have adopted this kid and will probably have done better with him than what these guys are doing. Because to the extent he's being kept in an 8 feet by 8 feet box in a garage of their Jupiter, Florida home in the United States of America under constant 24-hour CCTV surveillance. This guy is just 14 years old, and yeah, he was acting out per the reports. He has certain habits he's been acting out of. But hey, he's a kid. I think he needs direction, he needs discipline, he needs parental guidance, but not this type of brutal extremities that these parents are putting up. I don't understand how they are able to dream this up and execute it and see it happening continuously as the boy's normal way of life. As I'm speaking now, that structure has been torn down and the case is actually in court. Initially, there were considerations to try them together, both the husband and the wife, but then the case of the wife was split from that of the husband, and her case is yet to have its day in court. So as it stands now, it's only the husband, Timothy Ferriter, 46 years old, who is actually in court battling this case out. His defense seemed to be arguing more from the angle of he was just providing tough love for this young boy because this young boy needs it to balance out. Yeah, I understand tough love, but where do we draw the line? Because if it's just that blanket caption, I believe anybody can do anything and just come and use tough love as an excuse. I think that tough love should come out of a place of love in the first place, such that how is it any way loving to decide that of all the floor space in your house, you are going to keep this guy in an 8 by 8 feet construction? And this is a wooden construction in your garage, may I add. And there are other kids in the house, and this guy is being treated this way, and they are being left to live their normal childhood life in the same house, watch TV, play around and all, and this guy is just being camped that way. I don't think it's tough love at this point. It's more like a detention center they've constructed for this 14-year-old boy. And to the point that he's under 24-hour CCTV monitoring. Who does that? Some people are arguing that maybe they are able to do all this to him because he is adopted and not really a kid they themselves conceived and bore, so they can call their own kid. And I agree with them to an extent, because if they had given birth to this kid themselves, maybe they will still do this, or maybe they may have done better. I think that these people, although I'm sure they may have their justifications, are able to go to this extent because probably they don't have that natural instinctive love for him because they adopted him. But my point is, why adopt him at all if you are not going to give him your best? I don't get it. But again, we've seen the case of Ruby Frankie and Jodie Hildebrandt. And so this does not surprise me anymore, because we saw what a mother was doing to her own kids. So if these guys are doing this to an adopted kid, it begins to make Ruby Frankie's case look like, oh, okay. So then these guys are on a secondary level and Ruby Frankie is the primary deal together with Jodie Hildebrandt. But all these things just goes to send that signal that there are some crazy people out there. Crazy in quotes, of course. I mean, there are some extreme people out there. And I think that this case is going to test the boundaries of discipline, because the father was actually offered a plea deal to serve 24 months in court and he refused. He's going to fight it out. At which point, if he loses the case, he risks facing up to about 40 years in prison. Yeah, 40 years in prison. Now, this structure the boy was kept in doesn't even have any windows. It doesn't have a doorknob, and the lock and light switch are all located outside of the box. So this guy is just in there and he can't even regulate anything himself. How does he conclude he's at home? He is in prison, in a house that is supposed to be his home. And I'm sure that with all this treatment going on, the parents or his adoptive parents never made it public that this is how they are treating this guy. But then one would ask, what warranted all this treatment, at least from the perspective of the parents? Before we get into that, I think that at the end of this, you would see that this boy genuinely has real love for his adoptive parents. Because look at this treatment that is being meted out to him, especially in a home where he sees other children being treated nicely. If he was alone with them, although it's still bad, I think that may probably not hurt as much as it is now, or it was then, when he was with them and he's being treated this way, and there are other kids also in the same house who are being treated nicely. I think it hurts more that way. And that is the situation that he was in. And just to show how much he really cares for the parents, even when he took the stand in court, instead of maybe deciding that this is the time for him to also avenge that treatment, he was rather resorting to plead on behalf of the parents, telling the court that the parents just made a mistake and that they should be forgiven. This sends goosebumps, because it's like somebody who has been treated so badly and unfairly having a chance now for reparations and also to get back at the people who did him wrong, and he decides to show them love. That is a testament to the kind of heart that this kid has. He was 14 at the time of their arrest, but now he's 16 years old. And I think that Timothy Ferriter and his wife have a lot of rethinking to do, because I don't understand how any of this can be justified by them. And for Tracy Ferriter, as a mother and a woman, I always say this, because arguably the women usually have more empathy towards their kids, because it's assumed that because they bore the kids themselves, that connection is deeper. So I don't understand how come a mother can be there and be cool party to all these things, and it's consistent and it has become a normal way of life for this young man. I just don't understand. Now, here are some of the things that this boy is accused of doing. He actually, before I go into that, he actually went to talk about the fact that being locked in that room is so terrifying, and that he just doesn't find himself in that room. It gets so uncomfortable, and it's a very horrific feeling for him to endure. But he said all these things and then ended up actually telling the court to forgive his parents. So he went on to say that he doesn't even have a bad image of Timothy and Tracy Ferriter, and that they made a mistake, and that they were just acting out of frantic surprises at his actions. You see, he is blaming himself again for what they have done, and you begin to see the similarities between that and the Ruby Frankie and Jody Hildebrand case. He went on to talk about the fact that he believes they were not really trying to do any harm to him, and that he believes people should recognize that the Ferriters made a mistake and possibly forgive them and move on. Really? Well, I leave that to the courts. But for you watching, what do you think about this case? What do you think about this case? Because I think that it's not the best at all. Here are some of the offenses that this boy is accused of committing, or is actually known to have committed, which his parents used as grounds to justify that treatment they gave him by locking him in that 8 by 8 feet box. So, here is the list. He's accused of stealing, lying, hitting, hacking into the school computer, embarrassing his younger sister in class, accidentally pushing his baby brother off a bike, and even pretending to be a member of the school board to one unwitting teacher he told he was evaluating. And it's actually alleged that he determined that he was going to intentionally break about 5 rules every week. And sometimes even usually more. So I think that this is a boy who is coming into his own. Obviously, some of these things he's accused of doing are not good. But like I said earlier, there are ways of going about these without getting to this extreme end. And I think that the parents need to learn more about better parenting options than what they are doing now. But as it stands now, the case is in court. And Timothy Ferriter has actually refused or rejected the plea deal he was offered, where he would have served 24 months, that's 2 years in jail, and then moved on. He has rejected it and is going to battle it out in court, and if he loses, he risks facing about 40 years or so in jail. The case of his wife will come up after his is done. But at the moment, this guy is saying this, and I hope that it hasn't affected him, other than that it becomes a generational problem waiting to be passed on when this guy also becomes an adult. And I think that it's unfortunate it has to get to this point. Although I believe there are better counseling systems out there, better support systems out there that might also be able to help this guy come out of any trauma that this situation has put him in. But like I said, at the moment, that 8 by 8 feet wooden structure or wooden prison for this boy has been demolished and he is out of that bondage. Tim Ferritter is facing charges for child abuse, and some people are also trying to argue on his behalf from the angle of tough love. Let's see how the law will play out. Tough love versus child abuse. Tim Ferritter and his wife, Tracy Ferritter, are in deep waters, and we are waiting to see how things will play out. I'm following the case as and when there are key updates, right? I'll bring them to you. Until then, subscribe if you are yet to do so. And hey, I'm in Ghana, West Africa. In case you don't know so much about my country, I have a second channel where I showcase everything about Ghana. You can just find a link in the description of this video and then just go to that YouTube channel, subscribe, and get to know more about my country without necessarily having to travel here. You see, Ghana is a very beautiful country. Until then, keep an eye out, stay safe, and I'll catch you.